Transfer window has officially closed. It has been a day, and quite frankly, it has been a window full of drama. We have seen records broken on both sides. Liverpool, of course, breaking the record transfer fee twice in one window. Chelsea doing record business in terms of player sales as well. It has been a window to remember. Today, we're going to go through and pick our top three signings of the window based on quality, value for money, etc. We'll see if we agree. And as always, please do consider subscribing and joining the debate below, letting us know your three signings of the summer. Reese, let's kick things off. Who is your first top signing of the summer and why?
Yeah, as we know, it's been one of the busiest transfer windows. It's a record-breaking transfer window, and we know that not all players have completed their moves at this transfer window, despite it being closed. But I've actually gone through, well, not just research, but personal opinion, and I actually think there's a bit of a hidden gem in this one. Um, and I've actually gone for Robin Roths at Sunderland. Um, Goalkeeper, £10 million, which is a bargain for a goalkeeper in these days. I think he's been fantastic. You know me, I've waxed lyrical about how good Sunderland's recruitment is, and they've done the right thing when they've got promoted. They've been ruthless. They've understood that not all those players, they can't be loyal to the players that got them up. They have to stay up. And he's been fantastic in the three games. If you look at his game against Brentford, multiple saves to deny them, save the penalty as well. You know, what more do they want from him at £10 million? He's been absolutely outstanding, and all these clubs looking for goalkeepers have missed one. Him. So what more? He's been fantastic, and I'm sure any Mackem that listens to this will agree. What a piece of business he has been, and he will probably be critical to whether Sunderland stay up or not.
All right, that's definitely a rogue one to kick us off. I think Sunderland have done phenomenal business, but I wouldn't have even had him in my top three or four signings they've made this summer, which maybe does make the point of how good they've been in terms of recruitment. Jamie, who would be your number? Well, not number one, but who would be your first out of the three?
Yeah, so my one, to be honest, I think even Reese, though he's the resident Arsenal fan, won't pick an Arsenal player. So I think I might represent them. I think Gyökeres is. He's the one that I think you've got to go with. What have Arsenal needed? What did they need last summer? A striker. They've finally gone and bought that striker. And you've got to look at his records for the past two seasons. It was 39 in 33 last year in the league. And then it was the season before was 29 in 33. He's scoring tons of goals, and that's what Arsenal have lacked. Defensively, they've been the best side for possibly the past three seasons. And it's just, they've keep coming second is because of their goal scoring. And them signing probably the hottest striker going in terms of form. And it's not even for like you can get onto sort of an Isak. It's not over 100 million. It's for 54. It's about 55 to 60 ish mil they've spent in pounds for him, and I think that's a great one, a great signing and value for money for someone who's scoring so much.
Yeah, to be fair, you're right. We all said at the start of the window they need a class striker. It looks like they've got one. I think he started okay. Maybe some people say he looks a bit slow, but at the end of the day, he's there to be a presence. He's there to score goals, and he has technically done that already. Um, I didn't have him in my top three. I'll start off with a bit of a not that rogue, but I mentioned value for money at the start of the episode. So we'll start with a ridiculous value for money because he's free, and that's Jack Grealish at Everton. Now, look, we've all sit here and we've obviously slated Grealish's form. Jamie's had good times at City, but I think most of, or at least two out of three of us, were in agreement that for 100 mil, he wasn't a great signing. However, despite us saying that and all the obvious criticisms, we know how good Jack Grealish is. We saw it at Villa. We saw it despite lack of goals and assists at City. He was in that treble winning team. And for Everton, a club like Everton, who have been knocking on the door of relegation, start of a new era potentially with a new stadium, Moyes looks like he's got them playing again. To make this signing, I know it's just a loan. I know that I see this being a permanent signing next season. I reckon he'll go for about 40 million next summer, and he'll revitalise his career. In two games, Jack Grealish has got 4 assists for Everton already. So one, he's already proven. Well, as I said, I said to you guys in the chat, I think he's outperformed his GA that he'd got at City. But the point is, he can go and be that guy at Everton. And to get a player like that, even if it's for a season, and as I said, they'll probably get a cut price deal next summer. They're basically getting a 100 mil player for free. So that's the way I'm looking at it, and I think already he's had an impact.
Yeah, he's definitely had an impact. 4 assists in 2 games, and is sort of someone at City we all love. Grealish. We've got not got a bad word to say about him. The thing is he was never playing consistently. When he had his best form, which was the treble-winning season, he had a spell where he played 21 in 23, and then after that he didn't play a single three in a row game. He didn't play 3 games consecutively, whether that was injuries or not picked. He never had that, and that's what he will get at Everton. Because, to be honest, in my opinion, he is the main man now in that forward line. He's not going to score you tons of goals. That's not what Grealish's game is about. But he is going to be one of the more impactful players for him. So yes, to get him on a loan deal does look great value, because, well, City have paid 100 million for him, and he's obviously shown that he still is a very, very good footballer already. So I think, yeah, value for money, you can't really argue with that.
Reese, thoughts on Grealish?
I think it's a perfect deal for Everton. Look, I, you know me, I've never really been seen the hype over Jack Grealish. That's not me criticizing Jack Grealish. I never understood it, but I don't think he also did that bad at City. I think he felt he fit into a system, and I think he did a good job. He played a part in that treble winning season, quite an important part actually. Um, but for Everton, they got a player that they needed, a bit of a maverick. David Moyes doesn't ever use a 20 goal a season striker. Look at the past, Mikel Antonio's. You've got the likes of, Yakubu up there as well. He likes those big centre forwards, so he needs a player that can help do the other bits, and Grealish fits that bill. Good chance for him to revitalise his career at a club as well that will love him. Perfect match and perfect move for all parties involved, to be honest.
All right, let's move on. I'll go to the second one. Um, Gonna have to talk about club bias now. We'll see how far we get to at the end of the pod with that. But I've gone for a Chelsea signing, and there's a couple of reasons I've gone for him. But I've gone for João Pedro again around the 55 million pound mark, which seems to be the going rate for that kind of player these days. And I think 2 reasons I've gone for it is one, when we signed him, no one was excited. So it's a bit of a weird one because we know he's a player who's got quality. We know he can score goals, and we know he's at a level that is Premier League ready because we saw it at Brighton. But weirdly, no one was excited about this signing, despite the business we've done this summer. And he's come in. He was on the beach. Basically, got called up to the Club World Cup squad. He came in, unbelievable goals, helped win us the trophy, and already he's off to a phenomenal start in the Premier League. And he just looks natural. He looks ready. He can play as a striker. He can play in behind. He has it. He has that aura about him where he's just ready to go. There's been no grace period. There's been no getting used to the team, the tactics. He's just absolutely fit like a glove. And suddenly he's now looking already in a few games, including the Club World Cup, potentially one of our best players. So for 55 mil, all in all, given the market, you've got to say it's good value. And he's young as well. People forget that. He's really young. So yeah, for me, he's actually ended up so far being one of the best signings, I think.
I'll be honest, I do think that's bias coming into it. I do agree with you what you said, where no one had. No, I don't think even yourself had that much hype around him when he signed, and he hit the Club World Cup absolutely perfect. You couldn't have asked for a better start for him, especially the Club World Cup performances, and he's even performed pretty well for the first 3 games of the season. I think he scored 2, and I think he's got 2 assists as well. So you can't argue with the output he's put in yet. However, I still wouldn't have him in that top 3, because at Brighton at times he looked phenomenal. He looked like the player that probably you're seeing right now at Chelsea, and then he has a drop off period. And there would have been reasons why he was getting benched for Welbeck and sort of not always in that Brighton team. So that's my only hesitation. At the moment, you can't fault him. I'm not saying he's a bad signing at all, because a bad signing wouldn't have any goals, wouldn't have been, instrumental in winning you the Club World Cup. But to just put him on there, I might be going this in sort of like December time, going, actually, I was wrong. He's been phenomenal all the way up to December, and actually, he has been one of the best three signings. But right now, I still have a bit of a asterisk next to his name, because I think there will be a time where he has a bit of a dip of form, and you're like, where's this player that we had at the start? And you don't anymore. But at the moment, like I said, I could definitely be wrong, but I just think there might be something coming where he's not as productive as he has been.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like him, but I do agree it's one of those things of, will he have the dips that he does at Brighton? Because ultimately Danny Welbeck did take his place. What, 34-year-old Danny Welbeck took his place. But I don't think there's anything to be alarmed about. I think we knew that Chelsea had to address some issues up front. You know, if Nicholas Jackson was as wasteful as he was, João Pedro should surely show better numbers. But will he fall victim to rotation? Because Liam Delap's not there for a laugh, is he? So I know he's injured. So this is a chance for João Pedro to make himself undroppable.
Well, I think he has already. And obviously, the injury aside, at the minute he is. I know it's a small sample size, but it'd be one of the first names on the team sheet at the minute. Let's move on. Uh, Jamie, we'll come to you for your second pick.
Well, we might as well keep the bias going.
There we go.
There we go. Come on, we might as well keep the bias going, hadn't we? And I've gone with, Serie A best midfielder of the season, Reinders. We've paid 46.5 million for him, so pretty much a really cheap sort of value compared to what you're seeing other players are going at in the sort of 60 plus sort of mark. And to be honest, I said it at the time. I watched 15 minutes of him in the Club World Cup, and I went, "Yep, you've got that's your spot. Your spot is sort of Rodri behind you. You're there." Or he's showing that he can play even further forward than that. He looks a class act, and he's not going to be, I think there was a bit of overhype with after the Wolves game, because he was terrific in that. But I think you got to remember, he's not going to be. You can't be at that level every sort of game. He's not a Messi. He's not a Ronaldo. He's not someone who's going to do that every single game. But he will be consistent throughout most of the season. And I think at his value, I think you can't knock that price for someone who is sort of, is a terrific player.
Yeah, I'm just going to Uno reverse everything you just said on me. Club bias. Had a few good games at the World Cup, Club Cup. No, look, I'm glad you said about the Wolves game as well, because he was sensational in that, and then everyone was like, he's the best player in the league, and then obviously you've lost the last two games, so we've got to consider that. But look, I was a big fan of him in the Euros before you signed him. He's come in, he looks great, and again in this day and age, at what 43 million. Although yes, you've had two bad games, he just looks unbelievable. So I probably would agree with that. To be honest, he was definitely in my list somewhere. So yeah, hard to argue with that really.
No, that's the thing is, we know he looked good at Wolves, but I think everybody's looking quite good against Wolves at the moment. Um, I liked him. I think they needed to fill the Kevin De Bruyne shaped hole, and they needed to find someone for now, not for 5 years. So he was the perfect fit, the perfect player on the market at the time, and what more can they say? It's he's been fantastic, and yeah, look, he might have been given a red card almost given a red card at Brighton, but I don't think that matters, because I think that's not going to stop the player we're expected to see. Will he put up KDB numbers in his first season? Really doesn't matter, because they need someone like him anyway. So Yeah, great, great signing for what they've got, particularly what was out on the market anyway.
All right, Reece, straight back to you for your second pick.
Yep, there's no bias from me at all in this. On my mode of thinking is one being impartial and two thinking of players that not everyone picks. Like I'm looking at more of the benefit. Like we know Eze was the signing Arsenal, we're looking for. We know Florian Wirtz was the example we're looking for. But I've actually gone for a player who's changed my opinion because I never thought he was that amazing. But I've gone for Mohamed Kudus joining Spurs for 55 million. I never rated him much at West Ham. I didn't see the hype as maybe others did. But watching him in these first three games, I've been impressed. Even watching his game against PSG in the Super Cup, I was more than impressed. I never believed that Spurs needed to sign many players. I never believed they needed major surgery. They just needed a change in tactics. And I think they needed that player who can play in the attack mid, centre mid role as well. Give them that little bit more structure in midfield. And he's fit that bill perfectly. And I think he's only going to get better. And I think, you know, again, for 55 million, they've got a very good deal. They've got an extra outlet when it comes to attacking and a player who's not afraid to shoot the ball either. He's changed my opinion in just these 3, 4 games alone. So for me, Mohamed Kudus has been a fantastic signing, and the players that Spurs have brought in around him is only gonna enhance their chase for European football this season.
Yeah, I don't mind that to be fair. I think he's a baller. I think people got a little bit lost just because of last season. But like West Ham, as we've said, and we're seeing it now, West Ham were just that bad. And already, as I said, in a few games, you've seen he's got that bit of edge, he's got that quality. And maybe we'll see, maybe we will see him fade away like he did last season, but he just looks that player who's willing to take the game by the scruff of the neck. Little flicks, little tricks, he's got it. So when he's on it, if he hits a run of form, he is going to be potentially one of the best players in the league. And that might be sound a bit crazy to say, but when he's on it, he is on it. So if he can find that consistency, I'd probably agree he could end up being one of the signings of the summer. Jamie, what's your thoughts?
Now, I was really excited to see him come into the league just through me signing him on FM for a different game file. So I knew all about him, loved him when he was winning. I was getting Ballon d'Or shouts in FM. I'll put it out there, not now. However, he was really good at the start for West Ham. His first season was pretty good. I think at the first few games, he has that excitement about him. He's one where Spurs fans will really enjoy him now because he's fresh and he's new. But if he's making sort of mistakes like he did at West Ham in his second season, Spurs fans will get sick of him quickly. So that is the issue with him. I think he can be absolute quality. Like Jordan said, sort of like on his day, he'll be unstoppable kind of he's one of them players that will sort of he can win you games when he's the one on it. But he hasn't shown it enough more at West Ham that is sort of my reservations with him. Because I expected him to sort of, be lively. People were excited about him. FPL people were excited about him. Him taking on players. He will do that. He will always try and take on players. His end product sometimes lacks. And if he can improve that at Spurs under Thomas Frank, he's going to be a hell of a player. But he's got to stay consistent, and that's, I think, the biggest mark on him.
Well, this was one of my reasons behind picking him was because I look at, like you said, when West Ham are struggling, was Kudos the one there bailing them out? No. And I feel the same with James Maddison. When Leicester was struggling, was James Maddison the one there bailing them out? No. Was he doing that at Spurs? Not really. However, Thomas Frank, if you look at his Brentford teams, had the mentality they had. When they had nothing to play for, they'd still turn up. They would still go and give it their all against they wouldn't go there for the draw, for example. So he might change Kudus mentality wise. And if he does that, even just 5% more, we're going to get a different beast.
Yeah. All right, Reese, we might as well stay with you. Who is your third and final pick?
A little bit unorthodox this one. Well, all the other two picks have been, I suppose. Um, I've actually gone for a different tactic here. You can say it's cheating, but quite frankly, I don't care. It's my list. Um, I've actually not gone for an incoming. I've gone for outgoings, and I've gone for Man United. Their outgoings have been very, very good because those players that they call the bomb squad look like they're finally out of the club. Rashford, gone. Sancho, looks like he is going. Anthony, gone. Hoyland, gone. Garnacho, gone. Okay. All those players have been very, very poor for Man United. The only player they've made a profit on is Garnacho. We can talk about that later. But the reality is, those players have all been disastrous. I mean, they took a £60 million loss on Anthony, but they had to get them out the door. Look at when Arteta took over at Arsenal. They realised we just have to get rid of these players. It doesn't matter, just get rid of them. And they did, and they've got better for it. This is the real start for them because they're getting these players gone, and that is very, very good business. Not maybe good money business. Well, Hoyland actually works out. It's probably going to be a good deal, but they had to get rid of these players because let's be honest, they they were not doing United any good whatsoever, and keeping them around the club was the worst thing they could ever do. So getting them gone, and good luck to them all. Actually, I think they're all players there. It's just not worked out. So to me, it's Man United's outgoings because they really needed to have this bit of a jumble sale.
I got I got a few comments on that. One breaking the rules of the pod anyway. Um, top, yeah. There's a lot to go through there. I think what I would say is I get your point on a lot of those players. It has been important to get rid of them, but I don't think that impacts the results. I.e., they didn't lose to Grimsby because Garnacho was still at the club and Rashford was, well, he was already in Barcelona. Like Hoyland was in the reserves. Like I don't think maybe on the balance sheet it's nice to have those players gone, but I don't think that impacts the club. They're not suddenly going to turn around now those players have gone.
I disagree. It's long term thinking. Look, Ten Hag wouldn't have lost to Grimsby. Okay, Solskjaer wouldn't have lost to Grimsby. That is on Amarim, and that's on that poor performance. But you can't keep players around that stink the place out. Okay, Amarim and Garnacho didn't get along. Why would you keep him there? Him and Rashford didn't get along. Why would you keep him there? Cause more issues over the long term. This is a very smart idea. They had to do it now. If they did it next year, that's another year down on the contracts. That's another probably poor performances. So, instead of getting, I think it's 45 million they'll get for Hoyland if Napoli qualify for Champions League, then kiss that goodbye. That they'd have been lucky to get 25 if it was another poor performance from Hoyland. They're not going to play, they're not going to feature. They have to go. And like I said, no point keeping them around. So they've done it. They've been ruthless, which is what they needed to be.
I think the biggest criticism of that, though, Reese, is a lot of them are loans. Sort of, and it's sort of like there's no. I think the Napoli one will probably happen. There's only three of them that are going for full. But I understand your point of going. You need to get rid of the dead wood. You do need to get rid of, and sometimes it does just go. Just go. You're done. Your time is done. Get them out the door, because that does hinder more. Them just sitting on the sitting on the reserves doesn't help because they're still around the club. They will still talk to the other players because they're probably friends. So things like that, yes, I do agree with it. It's a difficult one because I think actually the Hoyland deal with the Napoli qualifying for Champions League is quite an easy target. So I do feel like that was a good sort of selling. But the Anthony one, that's a disaster written all over it. But that's not. That's just the United as a club. They've made the disaster of that. He was
Yeah,
never
they
worth
weren't.
that amount of money he paid. And yeah, they've had to just go cut our losses really with that.
Yeah, look, before I pass you over to you two, is they weren't going to get that money back for Anthony. I mean, good grief, whoever would have offered that same money, then they shouldn't be the owner of a football club, as far as I'm concerned. What they have done is put a 50% sell-on clause in, though. So you think if Anthony captures his form at Betis for the season, which he's more than capable of doing. Another club comes in for him, maybe from the Middle East, buy him for 60 million. They get 30 million out of that. Lovely old job. So it's a smart bit of business in the long term. However, yeah, look, these were big money signings, other than obviously Rashford and Garnacho because they're academy, and they were all poor, all very, 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 very poor. So they had to get them out. It was one way or the other, and they've made that choice now, and they better hope that obviously they don't have loads of injuries and they've got no one to call upon.
Yeah, I can't agree on the Anthony bit. Nothing about anything they've done with Anthony has been smart. Um, but yeah, off the books, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Right, Jamie, who's your final pick?
This is going to be boring, but it's the transfer record. It's Isak. They've just gone and Liverpool have just won the league, and now they've gone and signed. I think the second best striker in the world, or at least if you're not classing people who are over 30, we talk about like Kane. It's it's a great signing for him because they were never going to get number one because he's at City. I know it might be biased, but I still will back that. They've signed the best striker in the second best striker in the world kind of thing. I know it's for a lot of money, but sometimes you just have to pay it. And strikers, it's sort of like they say, you win games by putting the ball in the back of the net, and Isak's very very good at doing that. He got 23 last year. It's performance. He was the second top goal scorer, and the only person who scored more than him was Salah. So it wasn't like there was anyone else who's going to score more than him. Haaland was there, one behind. I know it's boring to say, but I still think it's a great signing for him. Newcastle are this upset about it because they know they've let a very very important player, a very very good player, has left their club. That's why they're so upset about it. And I think it's good business. I don't care. It's sort of, you say yes, that's the money done.
Yeah, it's a tough one because I do get your point. It's like you buy a world class player and you just get it done. Is it a good signing? The concern for me is a few things on this. It's you've just paid what was it 70, 80 million for Ekatike, who looks pretty decent by the way. He's the real loser in all this because he's been bought as the main striker. He's played unbelievably well, and now he's just going to get sacked off, which I think is ridiculous.
He
But
should have known though, like because there were still talks of Isak happening at the time, so he should have known that if that's the case. So I
depends
don't
what was
think
said. It depends what was said. I can imagine. I don't know. We don't know. Or maybe we'll find out in the next year. But I suspect he would have been told the Isak deal was probably not happening. But you never know. Um, my only concern is the way Isak has handled himself. We don't know all the story, but is he just going to go and do that in 2, 3 years off to Madrid to Liverpool? Maybe we don't. You just don't know. And I think as well, until he's played for them, I'm still reluctant to say for 125 mil, it's a good deal. Do you know what I mean? Like, obviously he's quality. We've seen he can do it in the Prem, but 125 mil is still a record transfer. So like, he has to be unbelievable. He has to be as good as he was or better last season. So yeah, he's obviously up there, but it's like I think you could probably pick a few holes in it. I mean, give it a month, and I'll probably be wrong, and he'll be banging in goals. But I don't know. There's a few little potential issues with that transfer. Is all I'd say.
My argument to that is Liverpool need the players for here and now. Who's been, putting up numbers like that? Not really. Obviously, Haaland's been world class, but he's not leaving Man City, is he? So 27 goals in 42 across all competitions, nothing to be sniffed at. And we're not just talking about scoring a hat trick, say, against the Bournemouth or the Wolves. He's scoring them against everybody. That's the difference. He's not just deciding, when he can and can't play. So he's in that aspect, obviously. But he's scoring goals, and you have to pay premium price for a premium striker. There's no point going in the bargain basement when, that doesn't always work. So they've done it. They've weakened Newcastle in the process and strengthened themselves two or three folds. So it's a scary time to be a defender because that attack is going to be ruthless.
All right. Last but not least, my third and final pick is Eberechi Eze. for Arsenal. Not only because we all know his quality, we've all said it for years. He's coming into his peak. We've seen how good he's been for Palace. Palace, undoubtedly have lost one of their key players here. But I think for Arsenal, not only is it a good player at a good time, ready to go, as we said with Gyökeres, ready to win the title now. None of this, oh, he'll be good for 5 years. None of this future project stuff. We just want a player who is at his top game right now. We want to go and win the league. So that's where Arsenal are. They're in phase seven of Arteta. They've spent a lot of money, and it is time to shut up, put up or shut up now. So in that sense, I love this signing. He clearly adds value. He can play in multiple positions, and I'll be surprised if he doesn't perform well for Arsenal. And if that wasn't enough to steal him, to absolutely steal him from your most bitter rivals in the way they did, was absolutely brilliant. So for me, this transfer is probably the best of the lot. It just ticks all the boxes, and a massive FU to their rivals at the same time.
So, as someone who's obviously followed Arsenal and been during those transfer windows where nothing has happened, it's been nice to actually see these signings coming. He was my favourite signing of the lot from Arsenal. I don't think Gyökeres is the answer. I think Eze is perfect. I disagree. We didn't steal him from Spurs, but we'll talk about that later. I think he's been great already, just his personality and charisma around the club, and he adds exactly what we've been needing. Depth. That's the crucial thing. So what a player to get.
I think it's a great move for Eze because he's not done the Zaha issue where he stayed at Palace for too long. He's now made the move up to try and go and win big trophies. I know he did win one like at Palace for Palace. Sadly, I was there seeing it happen. But yeah, I think it's a great move for Eze for his career. So I know you're talking more about the club's signing, but I think it's actually a great deal for Eze. I think it's a better deal for Eze than a better deal for Arsenal, but I still think it's a very good deal for Arsenal in that sort of aspect. I think instead of sort of, I don't want to say wasting his career at Palace, I think it's a bit harsh, but yeah, it's sort of, he's not done a Zaha where he's just spent too long there when he could have gone to better things.
All right. Well, there you have it. Yeah, can't speak. There you have it. That is all we've got time for. As always, hit us up below in the comments with your top three signings for the summer. But as always, like, comment, and subscribe. You know the drill.